Okay, number 87, mediumship misconceptions. That's the subject of today's video. As always, like the video, comment on it below, subscribe. All of those things help other people to see these videos. So misconceptions might not be the best title for this, but it's what I could think of. The biggest misconception, obviously, being that there is no afterlife, and so mediumship is impossible. I'm not even going to get into that. I have a whole video, I think, on atheists. Watch that if you're interested. So what prompted this video is I've done a few live dems recently in the last few weeks, and questions have come up from the in-person audiences that I was in front of, and they've kind of surprised me. And it's easy to forget when you are a medium that most people don't necessarily have our view of the world and the afterlife. So because for us, for mediums, for example, that there is an afterlife is an absolute certainty. I mean, there's just no question. What happens in that afterlife, I think we have varying ideas about, but that there is an afterlife, absolutely certain. And I forget how uncertain that is for most people. So everything I'm going to say in this video is my opinion. That's true about all of my videos. And so I said recently, and I'll say it here again, wherever you're sitting or standing right now is the spirit world. When we pass, I believe it is a change of focus, not a change of location. So, and again, I'll make the analogy, if you've ever seen a television screen and there's a reflection of a window in the screen, and you can either focus on what's reflected in the screen, the window reflection or lamp maybe, or you can watch what's actually happening on the television. It's kind of like that. It's a change in focus. And unfortunately, mediums, including myself, will say things like, I have someone with me, or I'd like them to come closer, or there's someone right next to you. And that is how we're perceiving them. I have to say that's how we perceive them, but that is a physical world senses. That's our translation of what's happening. I think it's how they focus on you more or less, more intensely or less intensely. So if you have a loved one in spirit and you're in whatever country you're in, and you have a sibling or some other loved one of theirs in another country, when they change their focus from you to them, and now they're with them, they haven't changed location. It seems like that to us, right? They're not in the other country suddenly in the blink of an eye. It's just that they've changed their attention from one person to another, which in this world translates into movement or relocation. And but it's really not. It's a change of focus. And I'll have to describe it. So one of the questions I got recently was, do some people in spirit decide to hang around their loved ones, and do some other people move on? Because she had seen a few mediumship demonstrations, and she was surprised by who was there for other people or for herself, and like that. So, and I have to say, in my opinion, everybody moves on. As soon as we die, we have moved on. That's what that is. That change of focus is moving on. But there are I also believe there are varying degrees of non-physical. I think that's going to have to be its own separate video. All I want to say about that is I think our people in spirit are always available to us, because as we focus on them by thinking about them or talking to them or whatever, that gets their attention, and then they turn their attention to us, and that brings them closer, or appears there's this perception of movement closer to us, or them being physically with us where they weren't, a moment before. I do have to say, as disappointing as this might be for some people, we are not, as far as I know, we are not suddenly all-knowing once we pass. Like, the secrets of the universe are not revealed. And I'm surprised, if anything, how much we are still like ourselves, like we are right now, only better. And I know I've said that in lots of videos, everyone gets to be a better version of themselves. And I've been thinking about that because so much of how we are perceived by others depends on our physicality and specifically our brains. As an extreme example, I've had loved ones and even acquaintances who developed Alzheimer's or dementia, and they went from very sweet, very lovely people to nasty, really mean people. That wasn't really them. That was their damaged brains, right? That's their being projecting through a body with a damaged physical brain. But it's not really them, right? That personality change. And I've seen people in pain, either emotional pain or physical pain, that changes their personalities, which changes how they interact with people, which changes how they're perceived while they're here, right? And all of that goes away when you are free of a body. And so everybody appears to get a little bit or a lot better. It's interesting, my husband's a minister, and I was talking to him about this. And he said every once in a while, when he's interacting with sort of an unpleasant person, he'll get little glimpses of that lovely person that they really are. And I think that's fascinating, that he can see that in people while they're still here. And he said almost always there is a physical injury, there's an emotional injury, there's a brain issue, there's something going on that causes that change from the really lovely person that all of us are, to this unpleasant, being perceived as an unpleasant person. Often for very good reason, right? So I'm not only surprised by how much we still seem to be ourselves, but I'm also surprised by how much often the environment people find themselves in is the same or very similar. I have had people, just a handful of people, come through me expressing that they were playing with their new environment, like they were flying or floating or doing sort of magical type stuff. But a lot of people have just, like, I very recently connected with a man in spirit, and he was, I knew that he had like recreated whatever home he had while he was here. That was the home he was living in there. Like that's what he was experiencing. And as I was describing the rooms, my client was saying, yes, that's exactly right. That's what his home was like. It doesn't exist anymore in this world, but that's what it was like. And I said, it's weird. No one's ever shown me that they've recreated an environment. And she said, in the feedback afterwards, she said, the interesting thing is he built his home decades ago that he had here, lived in it most of his life, loved his home. And so it was no surprise to her that that's an environment that he would have recreated there. I just thought that was fascinating. I think that what happens to all of us when we pass is initially what we expect to happen. Because at least in the beginning, what our beliefs are about passing, that's what a lot of us experience. Lots of people have come through me saying that what they were experiencing was not what they expected. Those are typically hardcore atheists or super religious people who their beliefs, one way or the other, didn't mesh with what they were currently experiencing. So I think that's really interesting. But they were happy, like everyone's come through in saying that what they were experiencing was good, was a positive thing. 2 people ever that I've connected with, and they were both Catholics, said that this is not what they were experiencing was not what they expected, but they were still Catholic. I thought that was fascinating that someone would still claim a religion on the other side, right? Once they've changed their focus. That was really interesting to me. And both people were Catholic. So super interesting. What I am certain of is that there is no one-size-fits-all experience. Like when a human dies, this is what happens to everyone. I just don't believe that. I think there's so much more to non-physical than we know, than we can know, and that we can verbalize or explain in physical speech or written physical writing. I just don't. I think there's a range of maybe an infinite range of possibilities in the non-physical. And I think that's going to be one of my upcoming videos, because I'll just tell you, I had a very strange experience earlier this year. I was running tech for, I was doing audio and visual at a concert at a Christian church, a friend's Christian church. And I love the music, right? So their minister, so I'm in the tech booth, and their minister was sitting there waiting to do her reading part, lovely lady. And the choir was singing. And as this woman is sitting there flipping through her notes, I could see in my mind's eye, the way I see people in the room with me when I'm reading, during a mediumship reading, I could see a man standing behind her, but he was like 20 some feet tall and he had wings. And the only way that I can interpret that is angelic, right? Which is so not a part of my culture or my upbringing, which was heavily influenced by Hopi Native American culture and Eastern Indian philosophy from India, right? I do not have a Western background to my religious and spiritual beliefs, but that's what I was seeing standing behind this woman, and it felt loving and protective. And I thought, what am I seeing? So, maybe maybe in non-physical, there are what we would perceive to be winged beings, and maybe that's where the idea of angels comes from for people that have a Bible-based religion. I don't know, but I think almost anything or literally anything is possible in the non-physical, and there is not one size fits all. These steps of things happen to everyone when they pass. I think a lot of people claim that because it's comfortable for them and it gives comfort to the people they're saying it to, but I really don't think there's any one set of experiences that happens to everybody. There's no one overarching experience for all human beings once we pass. That's what I believe. Anyway, next week, I am going to talk about advice. I'm going to give advice on going to see a medium. If you've never been to one, I have some ideas about what you should do and not do. I can't believe I've never talked about that, but that's next week's video. Until then, thank you for watching this time. Please like the video, comment on it below, click the subscribe button, and until then, see you next week.